Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to News Channel 5 Plus. You're watching OpenLine, and we are asking the experts of Creekside at Three Rivers. This is assisted living and memory care facility. And of course, we're so happy to have both of you here tonight with us. We were leaving for break. We were kind of talking about just how important it is for your residents to feel like this is home. You know, their independence is still an important aspect and one of your top priorities.
Yes.
We did mention vehicles and transportation earlier, and you all wanted to, during break, we kind of talked about what we can talk about next. Well, let's talk about letting folks know that you actually can have a car there.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Just like home, they can bring their car. We even had one man that asked if he could bring his motorcycle. We were like, absolutely. So yes, they can bring their car, they can drive, they can leave campus whenever they want to. We just ask that they sign out, so if we have a fire drill or something going on, that we can account for all of our residents, because safety is always first. And we were talking about earlier how we try to make things very convenient for our families. You know, I don't think every assisted living lets them do what we do inside their rooms. We love for them to hang things on walls, curtains, paintings, rugs, whatever they want to bring in to make it like home. We encourage that, because that'll help the adjustment period go better. They'll be happier right off the bat because they're going to feel like they're home.
What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions?
Just that you lose your individuality, that everybody's a cookie cutter, that everybody's going to be the same, and they're not. You're still who you are. You still have your independence. You're still a unique person with value and purpose every day. And it's kind of like, how would you feel if you didn't have purpose every day when you got up? You wouldn't want to get up. And we want them to keep that feeling. And we have had, with the progression, lots of folks do move into our assisted living that are just showing beginning stages of dementia or Alzheimer's, and they transition through that journey with us, and that's why we're unique, that we can have them transition into our villas, into our memory support straight from our assisted living, to where things are still familiar. They still see the same staff. It's not so much of a change. And to make that happen even easier for our families, when that decision is made, we take the families, we look at their possessions that they have in their room to see what's suitable to take with them to memory care, and then we move them. We actually will move the residents' furniture. They'll go to an activity, they'll never know that they're being moved. And then the beauty is we had a resident, she had lived with us for several years on the assisted living side. We worked in conjunction with the family who was out of town. And it was hard. It was difficult for that family to make that next step, because again, that's acknowledging that the disease is progressing. And they worried so much about their mom, and I was the lucky one that got to take her over to the villas. And I was thinking the whole time, I was just, praying, and I'm hoping. And when I took her in and I opened the door, and I could just cry, she looked at me. Our maintenance crew had put all of her pictures, even on her dresser, the way they were. And she looked at me and she goes, "I'm home." And I was like, "You are." Oh. And I mean, she's never once asked about where she was before. She immediately knew she was home, because she got to the point where going into that dining room with 60 people was so overwhelming. She no longer remembered where she sat. In the villas, it's like family style. There's only, 12 other residents that live there. It's much smaller. And when she looked at me and said, "I'm home," I was like, no, I'm the one who's home. This is where I belong. This is the people that I need to be with, helping do this every day.
I'm going to share something just a little bit different, or the same thing, but 4.5 years ago, my mother moved to Creekside, and she moved into the assisted living. She had Alzheimer's. So when she moved in, she was still, she was still very independent. She was a walker. She loved walking. And she was also, growing up, she was also very shy. But I remember sitting in my office, which is Lori's office now, one morning, and I heard this belly laugh, and I thought, that sounds like my mother. And I walked out, and sure enough, it was her. And she made more friends and had more friends and did more things when she was there than she had ever done in her life. Well, about a year and a half ago, we had gone down the slippery slope, And my sister and brother and I knew that it was time to move her to our memory care. So we did. We moved her to at that time the villas weren't open, and so she moved into our memory care that's on the main building. And so it was kind of tough for her because she still could, you know, she had moments of clarity, but she passed away a year ago, November 5th. But from, you know, this is my passion as far as my career and what I do. But from the standpoint of actually being a family member, I saw it from that side. And knowing that the peace that we had was when we went home at night and laid down, we knew that the people that were caring for her cared about her. And
that's priceless.
That's a powerful sentence, I think.
For families, you know, so I kind of, a lot of times, I mean, I understand because I've been on both sides of that. I also know how hard that journey is, and to accept that this person that you look at, that looks just like she always has, but Alzheimer's is a disease that destroys your brain. And so families get frustrated sometimes because they go, Mom, I have told you that, but Mom doesn't remember. You know, how many times do I have to tell you to change your clothes? They
don't quite understand.
It doesn't
count.
There's
a lot of elements to it. There's paranoia, dementia, you know, memory loss, you know, scared. I think a lot of those patients, they're scared, they're confused.
And that short-term memory.
Exactly.
And families are fearful.
I think it's so good for families to hear you tell a personal story like that. Thank you for sharing that, and your story as well. I mean, that just really drives our point home here at Creekside, that it really is a community, a family, and then just also that advanced care. All those elements put together are why you all do stand out, and we're hearing these great stories and, you know, just advice too tonight. I think it's very important for folks to get a peace of mind. That's your executive director that is sharing that story, that your own family member, you were on that journey with her. Wonderful. You know, and just also touching base on the type of folks that you do have working out there. I always think it's important to, you know, really applaud the staff.
Yes, absolutely. Our staff, we have folks that have been with us for maybe 4 or 5 years. We've got 2 I know that have been there for 6, so almost since the day we opened. But they become, they spend more time with these residents than anybody else. So they become very, very close. And they laugh with them, they cry with them, they wrestle with them to get them to do things sometimes, but they interact with them with activities. So our staff that's a very integral and important part of who we are.
And I've always said that it's not, you can't come to a job like Creekside for your paycheck. You have to love the residents. If you don't love the residents, you're never going to be happy, because it is a hard job. You know, it tugs at your heartstrings all the time. I mean, over the years, we've loved and lost countless people that become like our grandparents, and for that is just so profound. To stay in a field like that, it pulls at your heartstrings all the time. You have to love it.
And just a couple minutes left here before we have to go back to commercial. I do want to ask you both, I think, an important question folks would love to hear just briefly. What is your favorite thing about working at Creekside, or just your job in this field?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I love the fact that these folks don't look at us like we're employees. They don't look at us like we have real jobs. I had a guy recently in the dining room, and he said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Well, I do." He said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, what do you think I do?" He said, "I think you're here to make people happy." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to go get my boss, and if you can get me that job, I'm all about it." But we're the first person that they see. I mean, do you have a cell phone charger I can use? You know, my family's out of town. I really need these special Band-Aids and I don't have them. Can you go get them? Sure. I'll just run right down there and pick them up, and we do, and we're happy.
And same question for you, Claudia.
I'd have to say the same thing. You just become, it is such an honor to be able to become part of somebody's family. Those residents, I've got residents that say, "Okay, you're my adopted daughter," and and you become part of their extended family's family. So it's all about them.
All right, back to that word community. So we're going to go ahead and head over for a quick break. Keep it right here on The Plus. We'll be right back.